Happy Friday, all my brothers and sisters and all. It's me, your buddy Donny again, with another Dolly review, and as always, telling it like it TI is. Tonight, I'm bringing you a story, okay, a backstory that I have with this little gentleman. When I was a little boy, there was one particular year where my grades were doing really bad. They were suffering because I got into a lot of fights. I got into a lot of fights. I would get suspended a lot, and not because I was a bully or a troublemaker, but simply because I would get picked on a lot. Okay, and I would get picked on, for being fat, because I've always been a little butterball. Okay, but besides my weight problem, I was picked on for liking dolls. Yes, I fought for my dolls. You see, I was not the victim, Nelly little boy, crouching in a corner while everybody would gang up on him. And no. Yes, I would be called names. I would be spat on. They would throw little stones at me, cans of soda. I endured, not to make myself sound like such a victim, but I endured quite a bit of harassing and true bullying mercilessly. Okay. Uh, um, at school mostly, okay, because of my taste in dolls, because of my taste for dolls, period. Because growing up in the 80s, especially in a third world country, for a boy to like dolls was the unthinkable. Anyways, so I was doing so bad in school, that my parents said, look, we know why, we understand why you get into all these fights, where you're constantly being suspended. But if next year you learn to control your temper and simply ignore all the name calling, um, tune them out, and just go about your business, okay, improve your grades, we're gonna buy you or take you wherever you want, okay, but we really want you to, shape up on your studies. And then I said, okay. So lo and behold, as a good little boy that I was, I listened to my parents and I tuned out all the hatred, all the name calling, all the cat calling. Oh yes, because some boys were very very cruel in trying to emasculate me. Okay, by cat calling me, as if I were a female, but I'm not. I wasn't, and I never will be. You know, um, it's I don't want to get too much into it, but part of the pain of being a boy, okay, who loves dolls, part of the pain comes from very, very ignorant people who attack your manhood, literally attack your manhood. A boy who likes dolls isn't less of a boy, okay, or less of a man, okay. Um, but anyways, enough about that. So I would still get suspended for fighting once in a while, but it wasn't as bad as the year before. You know, um, so I was doing so well. I mean, I really cracked them books. I was doing so well in my classes that, as you can see in the thumbnail, I earned a special diploma. A diploma not only for the most improved student, but for having the highest grades, academic achievements for my entire grade, not just for my classroom, but for my entire grade. Okay, so much so that they gave me that special diploma. Okay, in those days you had to call in a photographer, okay, a professional photographer to come home, and my parents called one to come to our house later that evening and take pictures, okay, like what you see on my thumbnail. Anyways, um so after the ceremony at school, okay, I told my parents asked me actually, okay, now that you've achieved all this, what do you want as a reward? And then I said, well, Daddy, I want another Ken doll. Another Ken doll? Yeah, Daddy, that's what I want. I want another Ken. Since you won't let me have Barbies, then another Ken then. But don't you already have enough Kens? Well, yeah, I have a few, but I want another one. And you said that's what I could get anything I want if I improve my grades. And I have done so with flying colors. I mean, my parents only expected me to improve my grades, but they didn't expect me to excel, truly excel, above my entire class. My entire class. Again, not to toot my own horn, but I did that well. I did that well, you know. Um, so, okay. So, very reluctantly, my father took me to Arenales. What is Arenales? Arenales was, and I don't know if it still is in Peru, a strip mall, okay, where it was store after store after store after store after store line up next to each other, where they were all toy stores. And not only toy stores, but also, bike shops, and stores that sold furniture for babies, and children, and so on. But it was really mostly toys, all them in Arenales. So, we pulled up in to one of the toy stores. And in those days, the early 80s, toy stores were really segregated. To one side, all the boy toys, and the other side, all the girl toys. And as soon as I'm walking in, of course, I knew that Ken would be in the quote unquote girl section. Okay, so I went over to the girl section, and there was a clerk stocking up, other dolls, and looked at me, and it's like, you're a boy, right? And then I said, yeah, I know I'm a boy. Excuse me. I grabbed my Ken and put it down. Now, all the while, throughout the store, I could hear, okay, not only customers and other children, who were there at the store, but also some of the employees, okay, making snide remarks and calling me names, okay. One of them, even had the audacity to question my father's approach to child rearing. Hey, man, what are you doing buying your son dolls? What is the matter with you? And then my dad, of course, mortified, bearing his hand, in the palms, bearing his face on the palms of his hands, because, these people were getting in his face like he was, committing some kind of crime to humanity. Okay. And my dad was like, this what you want? Yeah, Daddy, this is what you want. But why is his box pink? So? It's still a boy. Girls can wear pink or blue. Why can't boys, have pink? And my dad is like, my dad, he really, really objected to this Ken and his look. Okay. And I saw nothing wrong with his ensemble. My daddy, even asked, but why is he smiling like that? And then I go, Daddy, what's wrong with the smile? He's, a happy guy. And again, all the while, I can't help but to hear, the giggling and, actual pointing fingers, of some children, because, children can be very, very cruel. Okay. And they actually pointed their finger at me and called me very hurtful epithets, which I will not repeat, but, mostly of a female nature, which I never understood because I'm a boy. Why would they call me girl, little woman, fairy, flower, and again, all these female epithets that do not fit me because I am a boy. Anyways, so my father finally just went ahead and, slammed the money on the counter, okay, and grabbed me by the arm. And as I barely caught my Ken, as we were, rushing out the door, because it was very mortifying for my father. It really was. Because not only was I being bullied, but he was also being bullied, and his parenting skills were being impugned by complete strangers. At least they tried to. Anyways, So enough of that. So when we got home, there was still a little more, more grief because when we got home, it was there was my mom, my other baby brother, my grandparents, and my maternal grandfather. Saw my father and I walking in with me with my doll in my hand and looked at my dad and goes, "Why are you buying your son dolls? What's the matter with you?" And then my dad is like, "Look, I got enough crap from people at the store. Okay, this is what he wanted. We had a deal. He kept his part of the promise of the deal, rather, and I'm just doing good on my word." And then my grandpa is looking at me with my can in my hand and, you know, just mumbling under his breath, and I'm really trying to tune him out also because as much as I loved him, I didn't appreciate his very stern disapproval of me and my dollies. Anyways, now onto the unboxing. Okay, this can is from 1982. His box says, okay, his name is Super Sport. I got him in Peru. Well, not this one. This is another one, but I believe this is a Canadian issue because the box is printed in French and English. His illustrations are still in that superstar era style. Okay, as you can see, I used this top one for my thumbnail, along with a photograph of me holding my diploma for earning this can. And this can, as you see, hanging on my wall. This is obviously a sensational Malibu can, simply redressed. He's very basic. Let me get him out. This is from a time where doll tampering was rampant. Rampant? I'm an English teacher. I should speak better than this. Anyways, doll tampering was very easy because, it didn't take a hacksaw to, open the box. You saw how easily I just pulled the tab. Anyways, so here he is. Look at this handsome devil. Is he handsome or what? The Superstar era head mold, for me, as far as I'm concerned, is the most handsome face on a male doll I have ever seen. Look at that smile. Look at those cheekbones, that nose, that hair. He is so handsome. Have mercy. Anyways, so this is Ken. He comes, as you can see, with his t-shirt, his shorts, headband, white socks with blue and white stitching, and basic white sneakers, And he also brings a couple of weights. I think they're called dumbbells. Dumbbells or barbells, I'm sorry. I'm not a real sporty kind of guy. These. I'm going to put one in his little hand. There. Yeah, he's so strong. His body, his points of articulation are somewhat primitive by today's standards, where, most dolls are like too articulated for my taste. But I don't believe dolls need to be able to crack every knuckle or pop and lock their necks. This is fine. I'm happy with this. Hear I dropped his bell. You hear the crunching, how the clicking of his knees. Okay. This is enough possibility for my taste. In my opinion. This enough. This really is enough. And that's all she wrote. That's all he brings. And this is about all I can say about Super Sport Ken from 1982. Thank you all for watching. I love you. I appreciate all the views, comments, and please share and subscribe. Smooches!